Fantasy Philosophers is brought to you by fantasy-info.com.
This offseason in OTAs, even the Denver Post has issued a fantasy alert on Knowshon Moreno, as he's showing much more explosion, more decisiveness in his running, and he's just looking like a different running back and looking more like the running back that they drafted in the first round of last year's draft. One of the reasons that they're attributing this change and explosion and what you saw last year as opposed to what's going on right now, what's probably going to take place this year, is that with Knowshon, a lot of instruction was being taken with the coaches, and he was trying to do the best he could with their instruction instead of going on his instinct and just reading what he saw on the field and going with it. This is a classic example. When I hear something like this, young running backs, especially in their rookie seasons, they can definitely fall into this, and then we see them in their second season, they start figuring things out and become the player we thought they could be. The one story that this reminds me of is Tony Dorsett, when Tom Landry, and they were instructing him, hey, you just hit the hole at this spot and point, you do what you're told on this, and this, and that's because Tom Landry, any running back he'd ever seen and coached throughout his, career and his coaching staff, they never, that was always the way to have success. But Tony Dorsett didn't agree with them, and he didn't run per se that way, because his whole thing was to say, Coach, I got to run to daylight. I got to run to what I see. All of a sudden, as soon as he was getting on the field, at first they wouldn't let Tony be the starting running back on the team, but when they did start easing him in that year, all of a sudden he started making these huge plays, cutting across the grain of the field, making these unbelievable plays. There's this one play, I think it was against the Arizona Cardinals that year. I think he scored like 3 touchdowns in one game, and he gets this one play where he bounces to the line. It's at the line of, at the goal line, bounces the line, does a little twirl, and then flips it all the way back out and goes to, runs to the end zone all the way off to the side. And it's a pretty awesome play, and there was a few different plays that he made that particular year and throughout his career. But his thing was always, Coach, I got to run to daylight. And as soon as, Dorsett, I think it was that 3-touchdown game, as soon as Dorsett made some of those plays, Tom Landry fundamentally changed the way that he wanted his coaching staff to approach the running game. And he changed the way that he told his offensive linemen to block. He said, hey, basically that, you just get on your man and let Tony go and do his thing, because he's going to run to daylight. And so I say all that story, I think for Knowshon Moreno, this is one of those classic cases. I mean, sometimes a coach technically will tell you, hey, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And for a lot of running backs, that's true. In a lot of cases, even for that running back, that may be true. But there's times you've got to break off and you've got to run to daylight. You've got to have your instincts, trust those when you see something opening up, and you've got to run to that particular point. And when you have the type of skills that a Moreno has, you can make those kind of plays. And that's a very exciting thing for fantasy. So with Moreno, hey, you can't really like all the structure that's going on around him. He still has a decent offensive line. I'm pretty sure Kyle Orton's going to be the quarterback for most of the season this year, probably until they fall out of the playoff hunt. But for the most part, I think where Moreno really gets a nice get back, if you will, because of all the situations he's had, he's still in the AFC West, which means he still gets to play the Kansas City Chiefs, the Chargers, and even the Raiders. The Raiders are coming along, but we'll see if they can beat a good explosive back like this. But he's also going to get the NFC West this season, so that means a game against the Rams, the Seahawks, and so on. So there's opportunities here for him schedule-wise to take advantage of things. What I really like about Moreno is he the type of guy that can make big plays. We didn't see a ton of that again last year. I mean, his long run was only 36 yards, but he did have 7 rushing touchdowns, and he did have 2 touchdown catches. So that gave him a total of 9 touchdowns last season. And that's, maybe most people don't remember him having that kind of touchdown production, but it was good. He had almost 1,000 yards rushing. He had 28 receiving catches and 213 yards in that area. We've seen the film. You can go back and look at him in college with Georgia. he can be an explosive player, an exciting player. We're going to start seeing that type of running back. Again, traditionally, it can take a guy sometimes till maybe that second season or so before he really starts trusting himself. As far as this year at fantasy drafts, we've got Moreno inside the top 15 backs to take a look at, and I think he should stick in that area. It's probably a really nice number 2 running back for your team. I wouldn't necessarily take him as a number 1 because we haven't really seen him fully put it together yet. And, with the team that he has around him, that's a bit of a knock there. If he had a better team around him, maybe like Ryan Matthews has with the Chargers, where he's set up to be in a perfect situation, I'd have him higher. He should be a fine producer for your fantasy team this year and in every week start.
For more fantasy football information, go to fantasy-info.com and sign up for our free e-newsletter. Good luck in your 2010 Fantasy Football League. As an added bonus, the Fantasy Info guys will include their 5 secret tips for success in fantasy football.